Woo! Welcome back to Healing in Real Time. I'm Sharday, and this is where we learn how to have hope when it's hard. And today I want to talk about healing in real time as far as friendship. We just gonna jump right into it. One of the things that I can be honest about is when I was diagnosed and throughout the process of having polycystic, or not having, because we don't claim the things that were spoken over us. When I was diagnosed with polycystic kidney disease, I've always been a very take a licking and keep on ticking kind of person. Meaning I don't want people feeling sorry for me. I don't want, anyone to think that I don't have it all together. And sometimes when you're healing, you just don't. You do not have it all together. And that's okay. And today I wanted to talk about why friends are important. The community that you keep during your healing journey is very, very, very important. I'm going to start off talking about a story in Luke. Some of you may know it. Some of you may not. But there's a story in Luke. It is in chapter number 7, I believe. Now, where is it? Okay, so I was honestly going to read the scripture about the friends who lowered their friend down into the house, who ripped the roof off and lowered their friends down. That's a beautiful example.
And just for reference, that scripture is in Mark chapter 2, verses 3 through 11. Y'all go read it.
Your friend's faith being able to gain access to healing power. Absolutely. But also there is a scripture in Luke chapter 7, and it's actually about a Roman officer. The reason why this is important is because technically the Roman officer during this dispensation would have been a Gentile, meaning that he was not even a part of the sect of the people who Jesus was sent to be proclaiming the gospel to at that given time. And in Luke 7, we didn't start at verse 1. It says, when Jesus had finished saying all this to the people, he returned to Capernaum. At that time, the highly valued slave of a Roman officer was sick near death. When the officer heard about Jesus, he sent some respected Jewish elders to ask him to come and heal his slave. So they earnestly begged Jesus to help the man. If anyone deserves your help, he does, they said, for he loves the Jewish people and even built a synagogue for us. So basically saying that this Roman officer, the relationship between Romans and Jews at the time was not a good one. They were occupying the space and not treating Jews in a good light, so to speak. And so they're saying, if there's anyone you're going to help, please help this Roman officer to heal his slave. And so Jesus went with him. But just before they arrived to the house, the officer sent some friends to say, Lord, don't trouble yourself by coming to my home, for I am not worthy of such an honor. I am not even worthy to come and meet you. Just say the word from where you are, and my servant will be healed. I know this because I am under the authority of my superior officers, and I have authority over my soldiers. I only need say go, and they go, or come, and they come. And if I say to my slaves, do this, they do it. When Jesus heard this, he was amazed. Turning to the crowd that was following him, he said, I tell you, I haven't seen faith like this in all of Israel. And when the officer's friends returned to his house, they found the slave completely healed. I don't think that's scripture that I want to use. We'll use it. Okay, all that to say that in the word, there are many times where people sent their friends when their friends took the purse and all of the things, and the company you keep can be a detriment, or they can really determine if you get what you need. And I think that it's important when you're going through a healing, when you try to have hope and it's hard, that when you can't pray, you have friends who can pray for you. A lot of times people ask, well, how do I find friends? Especially at my big age, like, where am I going to find these people? And I have three different ways that I think are helpful in finding friendships, especially if you're in your mid-20s, your early 30s, even, your 40s and stuff like that. I moved to Atlanta when I was in my mid-20s, and, I had to start all over in terms of finding a friend group. And I think for me, one of the first ways, so way number one, was becoming active in my church. I felt like I was around women who believed the same things that I believed, and shared similar values, and I think that was very helpful. So like joining a women's ministry, or if you don't want to be in the women's ministry, joining the children's ministry and serving alongside someone and becoming friends with them, becoming an usher or a greeter or something, but serving in your church and having community via that space where you're serving. I think number one is really good. Number two, genuine interests. I think that there are ways that aren't church where you can meet people who are interested in things that you're interested in, whether that's going to the gym, whether that's taking fitness classes and meeting somebody who's in your class, whether that's joining a running club in your city, whether that's, all of those different pickleball, that came to mind. I don't know who that's for, but I say be intentional about getting outside of your everyday life and things like that. Finding people who have similar interests as you in those types of groups, I think can always be really, really good. And then number three, I would say, I don't think it's wrong to meet people on social media. I have a lot of friends who, well, not a lot, I have 3 friends right now who I met on social media, who, we talked over DMs and we really clicked online, and we were in the same city and said, hey, I want to meet up, da 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 da. And, a year later, we're relatively close. So I think that those things are important. I think there are women who, I have friends who I've met at church who have seen me through all of these phases. They've seen me single, they've seen me engaged, they were at my wedding, they saw me get married. I have friends who were the friends of my husband's friends, well, the wives of my husband's friends, who I'm now very, very close with. And then, women who I've met online. And I have a very strong community. And I feel like when I am in a space where I don't want to pray or I can't pray, I can send a text and be like, hey, y'all, can y'all pray for this? Because I'm waning in my faith. And I also think you need to have friends and community who you can be honest with. Friends who don't judge you when you say, I'm feeling like this today. Because I think that's important too. That you have friends who you don't have to second guess if you can be honest with. And then the last thing, I'll say this and then I'm going to wrap it on up. There are different types of friends, right? Everybody isn't a behind the veil friend. And I don't want to say that there are tiers to friendship, because some may say that feels a little weird, but you can have acquaintances, and that's people who you see when you go certain places. Maybe some of the people who you see at church are acquaintances. And then you have friends. Friends are people who you can do life with. They're people who I always describe a true friend for me as someone who's been to my home. If you've been to my home, then you are a friend of mine. If you know where I live, then you are a friend of mine. A close friend for me is a person who I've been on vacation with, or I've done a new level of life with, a person who's seen me sick, a person who I've cooked for, or who's cooked for me, or has been able to hold me up and hold me accountable, I would say is a close friend. I'm gonna be honest, I'm gonna keep it funky on here because this is what's coming to mind, and I was like, dang, are we really about to do this on this channel? I always tell people that a best friend for me is a person who's seen me in my birthday suit. If you've seen me in my birthday suit, then you are a best friend. That means that we've been on vacation together, we didn't changed in the same room together, or of course my husband. But if you've never seen me like that, if you've never seen me at my most vulnerable, then you are not a best friend. And so it's okay. The amount of best friends are going to be different from the amount of close friends. They're going to be different from the amount of regular friends. They're going to be different from the acquaintances. And I think that that's important to know, right? That everybody's not going to be a best friend. That everybody's not going to be a close friend. That everybody's not going to be a regular friend. My close friends are people who I know if I need somebody to pray with me, I can call every last one of them. And more than likely, they'll be like, what are we praying about? Let's get it in. And I think that it's important to have that. And it's important for you to be that too. That as much as you are looking for somebody to be your friend and be a part of your community, I think it's also important to say, whose community am I a part of? Who am I showing up for? how am I showing up for them? And that's one of the things that I had to work through in my early 30s, is as much as I want a good group of friends, am I a good friend? Do I show up for people? Do I check on people? Do I pray for people? Do I reach out and see what's going on in their soul? Am I a soft landing for somebody to be vulnerable? And so along this healing journey, healing in real time, it's very difficult to do it by yourself. And so make room for friendships, make room for community, and make sure that you're making yourself a space for that too. I love y'all. God bless y'all.